Howdy doody community. Did that sound really country? It might have. It was just popping into my head to say howdy doody. So, hello, howdy doody. I recently had multiple people bring up my accent, and I've been out of the South now for about, well, I can't even say 7 years because we went back and lived there for 6 months last year. So I can't really say I've been gone, but when I'm around my family, it becomes a lot more strong. And I recently met a friend who's from Nashville, and which is a few hours from where I grew up. And I grew up in South Carolina, but the very tippy top left corner, right near the North Carolina border, you can get to Tennessee like 3 hours. Nashville's obviously further, but when I'm around people, it's just like this unconscious switch to connect. And a lot of people, when they're with me, they unconsciously start using a Southern accent. And I think it's just so cute because it shows how much we deeply want to connect and how unconscious it is. And then when I point it out or they realize it, they get embarrassed and blush. I'm like, no, that's you literally being a human wanting to connect with me. You think it's cute, sweet, and I love it. And I feel at home when I hear the accent, especially when I'm removed out of the South, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm still in a safe space where I can be with my wife, where I can be with my community. But then there's people that just get me in a different way. And all of that came through when I wanted to say howdy doody. So happy Monday. I hope that you are having a great week, or you're starting to have a great week. Whenever you're listening to this, I hope it's just really great. My in-laws are on the way here. We're headed to the beach this weekend, and I'm excited. We have a solar eclipse. Full solar eclipse is happening today when I'm recording this on Wednesday. Just so much magic is going on. And today, we're going to talk about the ocean archetype and what it really means to utilize this archetype. When I pulled this card, I was like, ooh, this is going to be juicy. This is all about creation and destruction. And then how all of this destruction can then all of a sudden be calm, chill. Like, they say never turn your back on the ocean. And I live in the Pacific Northwest. And when you go to the ocean there, those waves are not waves you get into to just go casually swimming like we did on the East Coast. Like, you have to be in a wetsuit. You need to be surfing. You need to be doing something that you really know how to do. And that is the ocean that we're working with today. It is the cycle of life. It is emotions. It is depth. And it is a archetype that is going to set your goals on fire, especially as we get clear on what they are. But if you haven't gotten clear on what those goals are yet, or you don't feel like you can say it exactly, this is what I want, go back to last week's episode, listen to that episode and say, let me collapse time. Let me get that uncertainty, because you can't really go into the unconscious if you're not sure of what it is that you're looking for. Okay, so I want you to think about a time, whether it's last week, maybe more recently, when you were able to get crystal clear on a thing that you wanted. When you were able to say, this is the one thing that I am working towards. And in that, you probably had to sit down other things, right? We know our energy, it is a confined resource. It can be expanded, but up until you pop that bubble to go to the next level, it is a finite resource. And so while you're going full force, maybe it's a relationship, a goal, you typically have to let other things sit on the wayside. And that is not saying that you cannot have it all, but it is just saying you are a human. And so when you're able to get clear on that goal, if you're anything like most people, if you're anything like me, and you got crystal clear on that goal, you may have found yourself taking a step back, like, oh my God, this is scary. Okay, I need to feel safe. I need to feel more steady. You really wanted to control how you were going to get the outcome that you had. You wanted to know what it was going to look like when it came to fruition. Because you thought you were doing the real hard work of getting clear on what you wanted, and that is really hard. But you also have another step to follow, and that is letting go of the how. And that is what we use the ocean for. That is the energetics of letting go of the how, because if you are controlling every outcome, you're actually blocking off the magic. You're blocking off how easy it can be because you're creating problems or you're creating solutions to problems that haven't occurred. So I want you to take a minute, and if you can, close your eyes. If not, just visualize in your mind. I want you to picture a beautiful ocean, but we're like out deep sea fishing, okay? And there is this dark water that's underneath you. You can't really see the bottom. You're not sure what's down there. And on the surface, though, you can see the reflection of the sky. In that sky, you start to see the reflection of these dreams, of these goals, of these desires that you have of what is possible, even though underneath that darkness is hiding what's below it. But we wouldn't be able to see the reflection if the water wasn't so dark. And so right now, with these visions crystallizing, with these desires becoming bigger, you are not able to see what's underneath your own choices right now. But you're being asked to still take a step forward. So the ocean archetype is your unconscious here. It is the part of yourself that knows things that your logical mind hasn't caught up to yet. In everything that I do in Rise to Her, we know that I focus on both the human self and the divine self, right? And that they are two parts of a whole because we incarnated into this life for a reason. And in that incarnation, we have to do the work of the unconscious, of bringing the unconscious to the surface. And when we take things through these three phases that goes through everything that Rise to Her does: awareness, awakening, and reclaiming. The awareness is becoming conscious of the unconscious. The awakening is then connecting. I even used my middle finger. I'm pointing if you're on YouTube. The awakening is like looking up into the possibilities, into what your soul, your divine self, your soul contract wants. And then the reclamation is then going back into your daily choices as a human to be able to reclaim that in the now in the 3D. And the ocean is saying, okay, we have to explore now the unconscious drivers that is wanting you to control, that is really wanting you to hold the vision and then manipulate it in a way that keeps you safe. The unconscious, it is the depths of our own knowing. When we are able to bring the unconscious into the light, we then can stop playing in just the shadow of it. And here's what I mean by that, because a lot of times when we talk about, oh, that was my unconscious, they're my subconscious beliefs, then we think of it as something bad, but there is additional magic that is here for us that is like drawing us in, because we can start to know without comprehension. So it's like a gnosis, a full soul knowing. And that's what I'm playing with the ocean type. That's what's coming through with this archetype, is not just like, oh, the shadow of the unconscious that is driving us based on our past experiences, but this is like a deeper soul knowing, a power that really goes beyond just the human experience. And so the ocean here is that gnosis, that soul knowing, the depth. Okay. And a lot of us have been conditioned out of that knowing. And we just think, oh, I can't trust myself. No, I'm just responding to my past. But this is really about the alchemization of the deeper work that we've been doing. Because if you've been listening to this podcast, you've been doing this work, you've been in it. And so I want you to recognize that the ocean archetype is there to help you take it deeper. The power is so fierce. Just like I talked about earlier, you don't turn your back on the ocean. This is it. This is like, okay, I'm here. I'm embracing it. I'm able to step into the water. I'm taking the step into the unknown. And the shift here is, once you get clear on what you want, the precision of your mission. Again, if you have not listened to that, go back to episode 85, listen about getting precise on your mission. So once you get precise on what it is that you are craving, desiring, you are so locked in that failure is not not a part of the conversation, the ocean is saying, okay, how can you support yourself the same way, but with a different energetic? It's starting to say, I will be okay in the unknown because I know how to swim. I know how to work with the magics. I've done the work. I have the resources. I am not the old self, right? Because a lot of times when we go into that protection mode, we've gotten clear on the mission and then we start backstepping on it. It's because we're thinking that we're going to respond in the same ways that we have in the past. And that just recreates the old story. We know how to swim, and we cannot live within the ocean. Okay. The ocean is not there to be claimed. It is not there to be managed. It is not there to be owned. And the ocean archetype, the ocean energy is going to reject every single attempt that we make to dominate it. Right. So when we try to dominate the oneness, the sanctity, the soul, it's going to take you away. But in this really deep, overwhelming power of the ocean, it calls to us. The energy here is inspirational. It is invigorating of all life on land. And the energy here also starts to dissolve the little us into the big us. So when this energy is present, and it is right now, the change moving through us becomes more collective. It becomes bigger than any change you've ever known before. So if you're listening to this the week that I release it, the week of the 17th, you're going to notice that things are going to feel really big, really intense. Like I said, I'm recording this on the day of the eclipse. Things are big and shifting. Like everything goes from light to dark like that. So of course the ocean is going. Something big is happening, something powerful, and you've been called to it. And if you felt this call to change, to shift, then you are in tune with the energy. But in this, the ego is going to have to dissolve. And so if we go back to the ocean metaphor, if we're working with this archetype, we know that saline, so salty water, the swells of the ocean, they actually work on a biological level on our cells. It works on our fibers, these really deep beliefs under the beliefs that you know that you have. I've talked about Aphrodite a lot, and I recently listened to a podcast on her that was really freaking good. But like Aphrodite and her origin story, where her dad's testes were ripped off and thrown into the ocean. And then the bubbles of the water, like the bubbles of salt water when it comes together and it's like floating on top, that then came to form Aphrodite. So like Aphrodite, we get to rise up out of the ocean froth, that bubble, and we become something new. Life has changed, and then we let the waves crash over us. So that's the energy that we're experiencing when the ocean is present. And so how do you work with the ocean energy? Well, one, I want you to start looking and studying like the actual makeup of waves. What happens? Look at rip currents when you try to fight them. I want you to get into water. So whatever water is near you, doesn't matter where you live. If you're landlocked, go get in a bath. Maybe you have a lake, a river, the ocean if you have it. I'm going to the ocean this week. I'll be putting my feet in. Being part of that overwhelming connection to Earth is going to be the medicine this whole month. We know that. I've brought it up in every single reading. So it's going to hold that really beautiful glassy surface that I talked about that reflected our dreams, our desires, but it also holds this unforgiving storm. Both of these things at once. It's this duality that then dissolves into oneness. And that is what it means to be the full spectrum of a human being. If you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, this is exactly how I want to run my business, that is your sign to go deeper. Rooted is my monthly membership for entrepreneurs and leaders who are done running their business and their career on empty. Inside, we work with energetic patterns of each season, pull the archetypes, read what's moving, and use all of it to make clearer decisions, reduce the stress that's been quietly draining you, and build towards your vision in a way that actually feels like you and feels deeply connected to source and spirit. Most of us have spent years mastering the strategy and performing really high. The plans, the goals, the hustle. Rooted is the other half. It is the part that makes the strategy work without costing you everything. It's $27 a month and you can try it free for 7 days. Go to risetoher.com/rooted or click the link in the show notes. Come get rooted with us. I'll see you inside. This is real energetic mastery. When we're able to be with the energy, we know that it's not about just, oh, I need to smooth everything out so that I don't feel the swell. We're able to be in the swell without drowning because you know how to swim, because you know that something in you has proven that it can rise back up. It can come back up. But if you skip this stage of the ocean and you go from getting crystal clear on your vision, getting really precise on what you want, and then you go into gripping how the outcome has to show up, you're going to turn into rigidness. You start controlling the how instead of trusting that you've already set the aim. And then now you have to respond and do the work and take the step instead of going into fear, because that constricts your energetic bubble. That energy becomes frazzled. The ocean is saying there's vastness here. There's oneness. There is sanctity. There is magic that is happening underneath the surface that you don't already know about. And there's also those fears that are happening, and you get to choose which one you are going to let take over the situation. That's not to say that you can't do the shadow work alongside that. Absolutely. When the fears come, sit with them and say, what are you saying? Where did this come from? But also know that the magic is taking place at the same time. Those two things are not separate from each other. Know that you've already set the aim. And a lot of folks are going to burn out when they get clear on their mission because they're skipping the energetics of the ocean. They were genuinely meant to have this thing, this desire that has been crucial to their contract. But the ocean is allowing this really clear intention to arrive, to flow, instead of being strangled, instead of being manipulated in a way that's unnatural. I know that the ocean archetype can feel heavy. It can feel a bit daunting because just like in the ocean, when you get in and start swimming, if you don't know what's around you, it can feel scary. But if you look at other people that have spent their times at the beach and in the ocean, they're like, yeah, this is just part of it. I know how it is. I know when it's unsafe to get into the water because the currents are too tight or too high. I respect the ocean. And this is something that's going to have to take time to be integrated. Take time to allow the magic. So let's talk about how this is going to show up in your day-to-day, how you can start to notice where you are gripping, and how that control is then preventing the full form to come in because you are then controlling it, restricting and fragmenting your energy. So one of the ways that this shows up, especially people that are working a lot or building your business in leadership, is going to be like if you are checking your email multiple times a day waiting for a reply. It could be replaying the same conversation in your head, rewriting it like, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. For money, it's refreshing your bank account or avoiding looking at your bank account. Like you're just refreshing it, just like, okay, let me make sure that every dollar is going exactly where I need it to go. Or I can't look at it because if I don't look at it, that's at least me controlling how I feel about the situation. But all of those things is that way of gripping in the 3D. And that is not doing anything for your goal, your precise vision, except keeping that nervous system, that human form, brace, and if you're watching on video, the energetics of this feels very close and feels very guarded. And we know when we are creating something, the energy must be out and then at the same time receptive. And so that in itself blocks you off energetically from being able to receive what you're calling in. And so it feels like you're doing all of these things. I'm doing all of these things. Emily, I'm so tired. I'm so burnt out. Yeah, because you're actually blocking off exactly what you're calling in by the things that you're doing to control it. So the practical way to work with this energy is going to be picking one action that you can take today that will help you take the intention forward. So that could be sending an email, making one call, and then stop. Put it down. And then set a time, and you're not going to have to do this forever, but then set a time that you're going to come back and check in with this. Okay? So it could be giving yourself an hour, giving yourself a day, whatever's going to fit realistically for the situation. And then instead of checking it every time you get your anxiety spike to like, oh, but let me just make sure, I want you to sit back, hands open, take a breath in, let it out. Practicing letting your energy be open. Watch how that shifts. Because you're going to feel the anxiety. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you're going to do this and all of a sudden you're going to feel better. People that do that and post that shit on social media, they're lying to you. That is not how sustainable change works. We know that's not how you grow a business. We know that's not how you grow a vision, but it is creating action in the 3D that actually keeps your field open. Okay. So if you catch yourself now rehearsing an outcome, like you're rehearsing it in your head, I want you to say that out loud. I want you to bring your awareness to it. Going back to what we said at the beginning of this thing, the awareness to the unconscious that keeps running the cycle is not the same thing as the magic that can happen. Okay? I want you to acknowledge that. Oh, that's me trying to control it. That's me trying to grip to the outcome. Anything that will help you get out of your head and then just back into your body for just a few seconds. Take a deep breath. Because I'm not sitting here saying, oh, you should stop caring about the outcome. No, we are deeply passionate about that for a reason. But I'm telling you to stop gripping so tightly in every freaking waking hour that you are trying to create, because we know that gripping, that control, that anxiety has never once changed how something turned out, and it only led to you feeling super exhausted and super burnt out. And that person is not here for this new paradigm of doing things, of becoming the energetic master of your work, of your life. That is what we do. That is what we practice inside of Rooted, which is my container membership for witchy, mystical, spiritual entrepreneurs, creatives, and leaders who are building something really powerful, really meaningful. We take and pair seasonal energetics, the will of the year, magic practices with growing a sustainable soul-led business that makes you a lot of money and doesn't feel like shit. We do that inside of Rooted. We take these readings, we apply it to the 3D, and then you do it inside of a container with other folks just like you. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to be feeling like you're getting thrown into the ocean. You know that the lifeguards are there. You know that you're swimming with 3, 4, 5, 20 people around you, and you're like, oh, got it. That is your invitation. You can join. We go through this every week. I channel in there, sending you channeled messages. You have the seasonal workshops to continue to work with the will of the year so that you can grow your business, your vision, your mission without burning out. Sustainable workshops, and then a group of a growing library of meditations and somatic exercises to keep you regulated. And my most favorite thing that I added, Calm the Fuck Down, it is a 5-day starter series to build a ritual inside of your life so that you are not waking up stressed, checking your emails immediately, but you're creating a ritualized practice of connecting with spirit or source inside of your business, inside of your leadership, inside of your work, and then creating a structure that supports your vision without buying into the capitalistic society. I give you a framework for exactly how to do all of those things and calm the fuck down so that you can feel good while making sustainable progress. All right, guys, be in the ocean today. Allow the magic in this week. Thanks for being here. Bye. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, reflecting, and rising into more of who you really are. If this episode sparked something inside of you or reminded you you're not alone, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. To keep the conversation going, come hang out with me on Instagram at Rise to Her. I always love hearing what's resonating for you. And if you're craving a space to explore intuitive, soul-led living with others who get it, our community is growing and you're always welcome. Until next time, trust yourself, honor your rhythm, and keep rising.